So thank you all for being here with us today, both people attending online and people being on site. And thanks to Mobilier National for, for hosting the event. Okay, is it any better? Oh, okay. Right. So Brankica in her speech provided an excellent outline of already of the motivations underpinning the crafted projects and some of the ideas behind crafted. So to describe the overarching objective of crafted in a few words, I would say that the project sought to support the transfer of European crafts to future generations following two complementary paths. By aggregating, enriching, and promoting tangible crafts heritage, and by documenting and preserving intangible skills and knowledge from craftsmen and artisans. To say a few words about the project itself. So the project has been running for almost 2 years, and it is about to finish at the end of this month. It involves 14 partners, including museums, aggregators, technical partners, and the Europeana foundations, coming from 7 countries, including Greece, Belgium, the Netherlands, Italy, France, Croatia, and Poland. Before moving on to the specifics of the project and the specific objectives of the project, I would like to first say a few words about the notions associated with crafts heritage, taking up also the thread from Brankica's thought. So crafts is probably the type of heritage that most explicitly exemplifies the inseparability of the tangible and the intangible dimension, as manifested in the way in which the product of craftsmanship embodies the tacit knowledge, skills, traditions, and practices that pass along from generation to generation. As UNESCO puts it, crafts is the most tangible manifestation of intangible heritage. In this respect, crafts heritage is often understood as a practice. So according to the definition provided by the Heritage Crafts Association in the UK, it is a practice which employs manual dexterity and skill and an understanding of traditional materials, design, and techniques, and which has been practiced for 2 or more successive generations. There are, of course, numerous expressions of craftsmanship, and within the Crafted project, we explored 3 main themes. Fashion and textile, which focused on collecting and documenting items categorized as fashion heritage, such as costumes, accessories, garments, etc., as well as on exploring the processes, materials, and techniques used to create them. The second theme revolved around traditional crafts and their reappropriation by contemporary creators. It considered a variety of material objects, from household utensils and musical instruments to toys and ritual objects, as well as the know-how associated with them, with an emphasis on how contemporary artisans and artists carry on the traditions inherited from previous generations and recontextualize crafts in modern settings. Finally, the third theme concerned analog media production and documented how television, amateur films, and sound recordings were made in the analog era, including technologies that made it possible and knowledge from the people who made them. Let me now outline the main concrete objectives of the project and the respective outcomes that it produced. Firstly, Crafted increased the amount of high-quality multimodal content on Europeana by aggregating images, videos, and 3D content covering the 3 crafts themes that I already mentioned. About 150,000 of new digital items related to crafts from 15 different institutions have or are being, as we speak, published to Europeana, with numerous items having been digitized during the project. Several thousands of existing records on Europeana on crafts heritage have been identified and enriched and upgraded to open licenses. And Maria Teresa later on in her talk will provide an overview of the provided crafts related collections under the project. Secondly, the project contributed to enhancing interest in European crafts and to the rejuvenation of craft practices by various means of editorial outputs, as well as through public engagement activities, which encourage citizens to explore local and regional crafts around Europe. In this context, numerous blog posts were created, exhibitions and galleries on Europeana. More than 30 behind-the-scenes video with craftsmen and artists have been produced. Edit-a-thons were organized to enrich Wikipedia pages with more comprehensive and diverse information about crafts heritage, and pattern-a-thons took place, in which participants recreated patterns from collection pieces and subsequently posted them to Wikimedia Commons, where they can be viewed and used by everyone. And later on, Jolan and Laura will say more about the editorial and outreach activities in their own presentations. The third objective has been technically oriented. Taking data on crafts as our case study, we defined and deployed an innovative methodology and accompanying toolset for the optimized automatic enrichment of large amounts of cultural heritage metadata. The approach combines artificial intelligence tools with experts and crowd human intelligence for validating and fine-tuning the automatic enrichment process of cultural heritage metadata. Various types of capacity building material have been produced in this context about the use of digital methods and tools for the enrichment and validation in the form of wikis, tutorial videos, and so on. And we will have a dedicated session today with presentations and a hands-on validation campaign, during which you will have the opportunity to learn more about the digital tools and the overall methodology followed by the Crafted project. And to conclude with the more personal note, I have to say that probably what I most appreciated about the Crafted project was the excellent collaboration between cultural heritage professionals coming from different sectors of crafts heritage and of the software practitioners such as I. And I think that the practical nature underpinning crafts heritage and its humble yet powerful attitude and mentality shares many things in common with the hands-on approach of software craftsmen, let's say. And I believe that this collaboration has given rise to some very interesting results, and that it has set the ground for further exploration and experimentation. So I hope you will enjoy learning about the outcomes of the Crafted project today. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And now I will invite Jolan. Sorry from the pronunciation, Wuyts, and I'm sorry with my name. And so Jolan will moderate the first session, highlights of crafting heritage, and we will invite Laura as well to join here. And Maria Teresa is online.
Thank you so much, Corinne. Right, so now we'll go into a few shorter, interesting presentations about the different parts of Crafted. Eirini gave a really nice overview of everything that has happened in the project, but we'll leave it to a few of the partners to go a bit more deeply into the specifics of what happened in different work packages, but let's not think about work packages, but actual interesting outcomes that have happened. First up, I'd like to invite Maria Teresa. Hi, nice to see you, Maria. I hope the weather there is a bit better. Hi, the floor is yours, Maria. I would love to hear about you about your work and the ingestion that happened in Crafted. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I will a moment. Can you give me the habilitation to share the screen, please?
Yep,
Or
the
you will
technical
put
stuff.
or you will put the slide, and I will tell you when to change them.
Yeah, just let me know and I'll change it for you.
Okay, thank you so much. So, thank you so much. Good morning to everybody in the room and online. Now I will have a short presentation about providing crafty content to Europeana. It means I will give a general overview of the content Europeana crafted provided to Europeana, illustrating to you the different providing partners, the content they aggregated, the enrichment activities, and the challenges we faced. Let's speak about of the different providing partners. Crafted brought together 4 accredited aggregators, which are organizations that collected metadata from content provider and distributed them to Europeana following a requested workflow. The 4 aggregators, which are all Europeana trusted aggregators, are EFA, an international hub in which fashion glams, it means galleries, libraries, archives, museums, and brands share their digital heritage assets and their experiences and practices in the field of digitization, access, and valorization of fashion heritage resources. So this is a domain-specific aggregator. Then we have Euscreen, which is a network of European broadcasters and audiovisual archives, media scholars, and technical experts, which facilitates access to and engagement with archival audiovisual content. Then there is MUSEU, which I represent, which is a domain aggregator which provides services for museums and other cultural institutions going digital and aggregating for Europeana. And finally, we have EKT, the Greek national aggregator, which usually is known as search culture. These 4 aggregators supported the data partners with training and help desk during the entire aggregation process, providing domain-specific expertise and skills. But then, which were the data partners institutions? EFA aggregated content from Galliera Museum, also known as the City of Paris Fashion Museum, which, as said by the name, is a museum of fashion and fashion history. EFA aggregate also content from MUMU, which is the Fashion Museum of Antwerp in Belgium, which collects, conserves, studies, and exhibits Belgian contemporary fashion. And finally, EFA collected metadata from Museo del Tessuto in Italy, which is the largest cultural center in Italy dedicated to the promotion of historical and contemporary textile production and art. Next, please. The domain aggregator Euscreen aggregated content from the Luxembourg Center for Contemporary and Digital History and the Netherlands Institute for Sounds and Vision, located in Den Haag. Next, please. The domain aggregator MUSEU worked with Mobilier National. We heard the presentation of Hélène, whose mission is to ensure the conservation and restoration of its unique collection in the world and to perpetuate and transmit exceptional know-how. Then MUSEU aggregated content from ISIMS, which is an international center for information management system and services based in Poland, and the Croatian Museum of Arts and Crafts in Zagreb, Croatia. The next, please. Finally, Search Culture, the Greek national aggregator, worked with Greek academies, projects, museums, schools, and historical societies. Next. So in total, the Crafted project aggregated content from about 25 cultural institutions from 7 countries in Europe. And some of them, like for example, Mobilier National, provided content to Europeana for the first time. So next, what type of content was aggregated? Images, videos, and a small set of 3Ds showing the variety of crafty content in Europe, from traditional objects to contemporary creations. 2 were the ingestion expectations, already reported by Eirini, add new high quality content in Europeana, more than 180,000 records, and upgrade and enrich records already published in Europeana, about 26,000, enriching and upgrading them to open licenses to ensure their accessibility for research, education, and creative reuse. Next, please. What does quality mean in the Europeana context? To help partners understand what Europeana means by quality, Europeana edited a publishing framework outlining different layers for content and metadata, which are called tiers. Philosophy behind this framework is that the more an institution gives, the more it gets in terms of findability and visibility on the platform. The content tiers depend on some technical parameters, but also on the right statements associated to the digital resources. In Europeana, 14 right statements express the copyright status of a digital object and give the user information on its potential reuse. The Crafted project aimed at providing content with open licenses in order to guarantee a high level of reuse. While as regards metadata, they are always released in CC0, but this is not sufficient to reach a high tier. In this case, the metadata need to be enriched. The next, please. The EDM, the Europeana data model, gives support for contextual resources, the so-called semantic layer, including concepts from value vocabularies like thesauri, authority lists, classifications, either coming from the network of Europeana's providers or from third-party data sources. This means that data providers are strongly encouraged to include links from open and multilingual vocabularies in the metadata they send to Europeana, following the Europeana data model recommendations for metadata on contextual resources. The semantic enrichment was carried out in the Crafted project using well-known thesauri, like the multilingual art and architecture thesaurus developed by the Getty Research Institute, the Europeana Fashion Thesaurus, specialized in fashion content and developed in 10 languages. Wikidata, a multilingual controlled vocabulary expanded with the relations of broader, narrower, and related terms, serving subject indexing and vocabulary control. Euscreen, the aggregator of broadcaster, used also the Euscreen vocabulary, while the Greek national aggregator used, besides Wikidata, a scarce vocabulary on Greek crafts heritage developed in the framework of the project. The scarce vocabulary, developed by the Greek national aggregator, covers several types of Greek crafts heritage, from costumes and materials to utensils and techniques. Wherever possible, these vocabulary terms do link to Wikidata and the Fashion Thesaurus. However, it provides a level of detail covering Greek concepts that is not reflected in existing broader knowledge bases. All terms are provided in Greek and English. In the Crafted project, enrichment was done manually in a few cases, but mainly combining the power of artificial intelligence tools provided by our technical partners, the Technical University of Athens and Databall, with experts and human intelligence for optimizing the enrichment of cultural heritage metadata. The next, please. The project is coming to an end, and I wish to conclude with some considerations. The first one is that aggregators and content providers worked in a collaborative way together with the technical partners and the Europeana technical team in order to reach the best results in terms of quality. Without collaboration, we would have never reached the results we reached. Secondly, cultural institutions improved their skills in the aggregation process so that the process will be faster in the future. Some of them never aggregated before or didn't know the Europeana data model and so on. We learned a lot in terms of enrichment using the artificial intelligence-driven tools, and the cultural institutions were deeply involved in the validation process of the results achieved by the machine. The cultural institution became familiarized with using concrete tools, learned about the benefits of automatic enrichment, but also about the shortcomings of automatic results and the indispensable role of humans in guiding the overall process and moderating the results. When some terms were missing in vocabularies, we contributed to enrich Wikidata with new entrances. We couldn't enrich other vocabularies, but Wikidata, as you know, is open to the community. So if you have an account, you can enrich it. In particular, the Museum of Arts and Crafts in Zagreb added in Wikidata hundreds of Croatian artisans and workshops that were not present, so that now the new terms are not only present in a structural way capable of being linked and used through semantic queries, but from now on they will be also translated in other languages by the Wikidata communities in the world. One of the main challenges was upgrading digital resources to open licenses. We were able to reach always tier 4, the highest level of openness, which guarantees any kind of reuse. At national level, there are still restricting rules, which often does not allow reuse, except that for educational purposes, which means reaching tier 3. We hope that in the future, there will be laws and regulations will allow more opening of the resources. Moreover, last, the aggregation process needs in general a lot of time, creation of new databases and repositories by cultural heritage institutions, needs of training for the staff involved in the process, issues related to rights clearance, complexity of the Europeana aggregation framework, and Crafted lasted only 2 years. Nevertheless, Crafted is contributing to Europeana more than 200,000 records, including new and improved objects. Very nice and interesting digital resources, which in part were reused and valorized through editorial activities, which you will learn about in the next speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maria Teresa. That was riveting and a really good kind of show of all of the things that we've aggregated and why we've aggregated them. Unless there are immediate questions in the room, I have a few questions to ask, and I will. So you talked about a few of the challenges and issues that existed in your considerations slide. One thing I'm interested in is the specific vocabularies and terminologies that were used throughout the project. So there's a lot of different vocabularies that were used. A lot of selection was done on vocabularies. My general question would be, what is your main kind of advice for other projects wanting to enrich their content with specific terminologies and vocabularies? Should they use as many as we have done? Should they do this pre-selection? What are things that worked in the Crafted project?
So, of course, we have understood that it is very important, the enrichment, otherwise we will not be very findable in Europeana. So this is very important for every institution. And of course, it depends on the material of the collections of your institution. It is always a good thing to use specialized vocabularies. Let's say if you have an archaeology an archaeological collection, it is good to use AET. But what I want to say, there are two things. First of all, that there are some vocabularies which are already dereferenced by Europeana, and so it is useful to check always the list of the referenced vocabularies, and in any case aggregators are informed about these and can help you. The second thing, in my opinion, is that it is very important also to link the data to Wikidata, because Wikidata is a terminology which is open to the community and is enriched day by day, and it is translated and corrected in several languages. It has millions of concepts, millions. We just had a workshop 2 days ago, and really it is something incredible. So we think that it is very important to enrich Wikidata, or even if you have your own terminology, any way to link them and to add a new concept to Wikidata, and to add in Wikidata also the link to your terminology. This is important because in this way we have really a linked data world, which will help the results in Europeana.
Thanks, great answer. Yeah, so the using specialized vocabularies that are specific to your own content and using Wikidata, you said were also really valuable. Some of the criticisms I hear about Wikidata is that simply because it is a community vocabulary, there is a risk or the danger, some say, that certain terms might be changed around or wouldn't be in control of the people that are actually using those terms themselves. Do you think this criticism is valid or not?
No, this is the same risk that we thought when Wikipedia was created, and I think that nowadays all of us, even if it uses other sources, always look for terms in Wikidata. So the terms are always corrected, but what I can say is that and interested people usually works on the ontology of Wikidata, because people who are not interested in this don't enrich the terminology. So I think that the risk to have some errors is better to take this risk, because anyway, day after day, it will be improved and enriched.
Lovely, thank you so much.
We have a granularity of terms that no vocabularies have.
Exactly, so we shouldn't be afraid to use Wikidata. That's good to hear. Let's move on to not only the content that was ingested, but how we actually show it to people, how we make people interested in all of that data that we've aggregated. Laura, I'm looking forward to your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Do you know if this laptop? Sorry.
Perfect, go ahead. Yes, that sounds good.
So Bruna asks, where can we access the database?
Go ahead, you can ask.
I have one question specifically for Maria Teresa, and then for those on the stage. So one from Bruna, she says, when can we access the database? She was talking about Maria Teresa. And then another question in general about the Crafted project, if you can answer to this question, if you consider during the project the interaction with generative AI and craft.
So Maria Teresa, maybe you can answer first. Where can we access the database? I think that's a great question.
You mean, I assume the database of the vocabularies, of the terminologies. But there are some vocabularies like AET and the fashion vocabularies, which are open. I can later put the link in the chat and they can be accessed. The same is with Wikidata, but the difference with the previous one is if the user generates an account, he can create, update terms, but what it is always important is just not to begin, but to follow some training courses just to understand how it works. While as regards the second question, can you repeat it, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to take the question as well. It was a question about generative AI and if we have considered it during the project. If I may, I will give my answer, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Great, sure. So the thing about this project is that it started 2 years ago when generative AI was really not a big thing on the global stage, and somewhere last year it completely exploded in popularity, and it is something that is now being asked and talked about everywhere. The interesting thing here is that all of the content that is ingested throughout the Crafted project for Europeana, and that has open licenses, could be used as a base data set for AI and machine learning tools. So I think that really is one of the possibilities that we could look at when we look at the possibilities of generative AI and the Crafted project. On the other hand, this project really is about collecting the real life, true traditional knowledge, heritage and culture that has been amassed throughout Europe over the past centuries, while generative AI is looking more towards how to take that data and then reuse it into something new. I think Crafted could be more of a precursor to this work than us actually working on and using generative AI ourselves to create new content. So that would be my answer. Great. And thank you, Maria Teresa. Bruna, if the question was that you don't know where to find the data from Europeana itself, it is on europeana.eu, and there you can find all of the Crafted ingested content. With that out of the way, Laura, the floor is yours once again.
I have videos in my PowerPoint. Does the sound work? We can see when we get there. Hi, everyone. Can we see my presentation? Yes, great. My name's Laura. I am here on behalf of the Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision. We are the largest media archive in Europe. And today I'm going to talk to you all a bit about valorizing craft, and specifically by highlighting some of the beautiful editorials we've made throughout this 2-year project. So the main goal for our editorials was to enhance interest in European crafts and crafts practices. And we were going to do this by furthering access points on Europeana, by publishing rich editorials, and by increasing engagement with crafts. Now, as Eirini already mentioned, our project focused on 3 main themes: analog media production, fashion and textiles, and the reuse of traditional crafts. Our editorials focus mainly around 6 different kinds of outputs. We had blogs, galleries, videos, edit-a-thons, exhibitions, and feature pages. I'll talk a bit more about them all in a second. Just a nice little overview of the goals, the targets that we set ourselves. And as you can see, we met all of our targets and even exceeded the majority of the targets in terms of the amount of editorials we created, because we were just so excited to create all this great stuff. So first, I'd like to highlight the blogs in terms of editorials. Here is just a large example of all the different topics that we addressed. We have women in crafts, we have camera lenses, lace, a labor of love, but we also took time around Easter and around Christmas to really play into that time of year. So we have a lovely blog on how to make an Easter egg. The nativity scenes in Krakow really is a great broad representation of the themes and how you can get creative and interpret these themes in many different ways.
The next editorial that we created are galleries. So galleries is something that anyone can create on Europeana, which is really fun. You can create a free account and you can dive into the entire collection, and you can bookmark specific items, and you can bookmark them into specific galleries. So that's obviously great for editorial purposes, but it's also great, I think, for research purposes, where you can really save all the interesting content that you found and get back to it later at a later stage. This is an example of a gallery filming on location, one that I made myself. As you can see, it's all about cameras and news broadcasting and the interesting places that cameramen and women are often placed in. In a gallery like this, I obviously didn't just look into content from Sound and Vision. I really tried to dive into all the other archives across Europe. So we have content from Sound and Vision, from RTV Slovenia, the Belgian radio television. So it's a really good example of different providers who all have something in common in this regard. Another gallery that I'd like to highlight is this one on the Ukrainian ceremonial towels. I think this is a great example, obviously in such terrible times of war and conflict, how important it is to focus on the rich heritage of a country that is experiencing something really horrible. So I think this is a wonderful example of how we didn't take the war, but how we took the horrible conflict in the Ukraine and how we really tried to give it, give some positive attention to the Ukraine and showcase what a beautiful heritage and history they have. The third gallery I'd like to share with you all is about the chair. I think the title says it all, but I think this is also a wonderful example of the difference in time and periods that can be gathered in one gallery. We've got chairs made from stone. We've got the Rietveld chair. It's a really great representation of items on Europeana that really span a broad range of time. So next, I'd like to talk about our videos. Now, these videos are something that we're all very proud of because we put in a lot of work. We got to interview lots of interesting people. That's the main goal, basically. So we spoke to craftspeople in their homes, in their workshops, in their place of work, you name it. And we really got to hear some incredible stories. So I'd just like to highlight 3 videos just so you get a bit of an idea of the kinds of stories that we heard and that we'd like to share with you. We'll see if we have sound. I think you do. Yeah. Okay, we'll go back. Don't want to ruin the suspense. So this first video was created by the European Fashion Heritage Association, or EFA, as we like to call them. So as you can see, we actually visited her in her home.
More than 20 years ago, I was lying on this couch behind you, and I took a look at the kilim that is on the floor, and I was impressed. As I said, I'm a visual artist, so I was impressed by the form. I was impressed that I've never noticed before how amazingly warm the colors were and striking, and the simplicity and power of the form, the tooth-edged square that in the local kilim language is called herakia, the little hands, or ktenia. Kteni is the comb for the loom. this particular kilim we are sitting on is a kilim created by assignment for the dowry of my great-grandmother.
So that was a wonderful example by Effa. As I mentioned, they visited this lady in her home, and she really talked about the family background and what this craft means to her. So I think that's a really wonderful, wonderful showcase of crafts here. A second video I'd like to share with you all is by Sound and Vision, and it is called The Color of Sounds.
Ik ben Martin Schuurmans, vrijwilliger bij Beeld en Geluid. Mijn vak is altijd geweest geluid en radio. En dat deed ik in de studio's in Hilversum. Als technicus was je 24 uur per dag was je inzetbaarheid, waar dan ook, binnen Nederland of wat dan ook, in reportagewagens en dergelijke. Dus als er calamiteiten waren, dat konden hele leuke dingen zijn, maar ook rampen, zoals de Bijlmerramp, daar ook bij gezeten en dat soort dingen. Dan moest je daarop af gewoon. Voor de rest werkten we in de buitendienst ook op vaste locaties, dus bij regionale omroepen en ook bijvoorbeeld op Binnenhof in Den Haag, dat is politiek. Daar heb ik heel wat uren doorgebracht. En dat was nooit aan tijd gebonden. Wij hadden geen vaste werktijden. Je was 24 uur per dag inzetbaar. Ze stelde ook altijd aan mijn vrouw de vraag, hoe lang ben je getrouwd? Zei ze, de helft, andere helft is hij er niet. En dus dat was de bekende gimmick van ons. En ja, het was zo, dus op het moment dat er echt iets gebeurde in het land, ja, of iets heel leuks of iets heel vervelends, dan wist je dat je telefoon ging en dan werd er gevraagd of je er naartoe wilde gaan.
So this was a volunteer at Sound and Vision who spends most of his time actually working in the archive, so not from his home. And in this video in particular, we really dove into the footage that we have at Sound and Vision and really incorporated that archival footage into this video as well. It's not. Final video created by Michael Culture. So here we're actually going into a workshop. So we've got 3 different locations.
Buongiorno, mi chiamo Franco Cicerchia, sono un ceramista, figlio d'arte perché mio padre era ceramista fin dagli anni 70.
Mi chiamo Lisa Forte e sono una designer junior. L'altra ragazza si chiama Giulia Giovannini e è stata una mia collega universitaria e insieme abbiamo collaborato durante gli anni universitari. Ex Materia è il gruppo di lavoro che abbiamo formato insieme. Abbiamo colto l'opportunità di partecipare ad un bando europeo che era promosso da Artex, il Centro per l'Artigianato Artistico. Etrusca è una collezione di prodotti aumentati perché diciamo che quello che noi vediamo sono degli oggetti fisici, però hanno un'estensione virtuale. Questo perché oltre che il prodotto abbiamo anche il servizio che si lega ad esso. E questo servizio lo possiamo, diciamo, esperire grazie alla realtà aumentata.
So I chose to show, oh God, I'm loud. I chose to show this video because I think it's a great example, as you can see at the end, of how traditional crafts are being taken into the 21st century with online apps and all that good stuff. The next part of editorial I'd like to talk to you about are our edit-a-thons. For those of you who don't know what an edit-a-thon is, the goal basically is to enrich and create updated information on Wikipedia. We do this together with Wikimedia Foundation. Lots and lots of countries in Europe have a national Wikimedia Foundation. So hosting an edit-a-thon in collaboration with Wikimedia is very open and available to lots of people. We work together with students. You can also work together with craftspeople. And Effa and Momu, obviously because they focus on fashion, they decided to host a pattern-a-thon. So they really got hands-on, as you can see here in the top left, and they had makers really create patterns. These patterns were then photographed and all published on Wikipedia so that other fashion designers or anyone interested could download these patterns and create garments themselves. In total, we enriched 104 Wikipedia pages, which we're very, very happy about. Obviously, Wikipedia is one of the #1 sources for when you Google something. So it's very, very important that the information on Wikipedia is complete, up to date, uses inclusive terminology, etc., etc. Our exhibitions, so these are online exhibitions, not physical exhibitions, and we created 3 of them throughout these 2 years. We have Nature Crafting Fashion, again by EFA. We have Life in Motion, created by Sound and Vision. And then we have Humans of Crafts, created by Michael Culture. And I'm just going to highlight this last exhibition by Michael Culture. It was published just last week, so it's still very new and there's still lots and lots to read. I haven't even read it all, unfortunately. Humans of Crafts. So here's just a little excerpt from the introduction. We can learn so much about our history and heritage by looking at craftspeople and the things they make within their own geographical and social contexts. So this is part of the introduction for this specific exhibition, but I think this is a great summary of the entire project and what we've really tried to accomplish. An online exhibition, well, yeah, it's in the name, it's an online exhibition. So we dive into the Europeana collection, we dive into archives, libraries, the web in general. There's a lot of research and time that goes into preparing such an exhibition. I think Europeana is working on having this available to the public, that everyone can create an exhibition, hopefully with a bit of help, because it is quite a lot of work. So an example of one of our exhibitions, Humans of Crafts, it has 4 chapters. The first one is the many faces of crafts, where we really dive into the range of crafts and how crafts have evolved over time in Europe. Then we have chapter 2, working environments. I think, again, as you saw in the videos, craftspeople can choose to work from home, in a workplace, from an archive, from a library. It's really interesting to see the different environments that people choose to work in. And then finally, chapters 3 and chapters 4 are about exploring craft heritage and contemporary art. So this is where Michael Culture decided to showcase 4 craftspeople and their work, and how obviously the history of crafts is employed to this day. So if you haven't checked out all of our exhibitions, be sure to do so. They're very, very interesting, if I may say so myself. The final thing I'd just like to address with you all is our project promotion and engagement in general. We hosted or attended multiple events and conferences where we spoke about the project and the importance of what we're trying to achieve. Here you can see a little after movie of an event that we held during the Leiden Film Festival. Last November, we dubbed November Crafting Heritage Month. We claimed that month for crafting heritage. During that month, we reposted the editorials that we'd already created on social media. We had 188 tweets with the crafting heritage hashtag just in that month, and visits of all of our editorials almost doubled, again, just during November. During November, we also had the GIF It Up competition, which Europeana hosts every year. Only this year there was a specific crafts collection. So we had, I don't know how many submissions from the crafted category, but this was the winner. Obviously, you can see it's a nice combination of fashion and painting. And the winner was Bernadetta Pasztuszka, I hope I'm saying that right, from Krakow, Poland. And finally, project engagement is obviously not just visible on social media. We have around 10 to 15 partners in this project, so there's quite a lot of us. And our partners, MUO and ICIMSS, also decided to visit craftspeople and have video interviews with them to contribute to the project. Here is a lovely video on umbrella making. Now, I didn't know the thought and precision that went into making an umbrella, so this was really fascinating, especially with this weather. Check it out, it's really, really good. And we also had the public reach out to us. We have an organization in Greece who focus on Greek pottery, and they've been following the project for the past years, and they've reached out if they can contribute some videos and a blog to the project themselves, which of course we welcomed with open arms. With that, thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, shoot or reach out to me later in the day, but definitely look at our Making Culture page and check out all the wonderful editorials we've created. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Laura. Feel free to stand or go sit, it's whatever. Okay, great. Let's see if there's any questions in the room or online. No? Anything in the room? That gives me more space to ask my questions, haha. So it's clear that there's been a lot going on in these past 2 years, remembering that in 2 years, all of these exhibitions, blogs, videos, galleries, edit-a-thons, and so forth were created. That's a huge output. I think one of the types of editorial that were quite new for a lot of partners, including Europeana, was the video editorial. Could you expand a bit more about what the unforeseen circumstances or challenges were in creating videos?
Definitely just how time consuming it is. Like you have to travel. I think our partners, EFA, they traveled from Greece to Antwerp to Italy. They literally traveled across Europe to conduct these video interviews, which is definitely worthwhile. You know, it's lovely to see that all these artists are dispersed across Europe. For me personally, from my experience, some of the craftspeople I spoke to, they were a bit older, and you know, their storytelling, you know, it just sometimes it took a bit longer, language barriers. So there was a lot of stuff to think about, but mainly it was just great, you know, to showcase all that inclusivity with the locations, languages, different age groups. So yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of planning and time had to go into that for sure. So we have all of these different types of editorials. Are they always published completely separately, or do they sometimes link together with each other?
They sometimes link together. So for instance, a couple of our videos have then been summarized, if you will, on a blog post. Some videos are a little group by themselves within the bigger picture. And I think everything is obviously always linked to the three themes. So I think everything can be seen as linked to each other, but yes, some items really follow a specific narrative, and yeah, we try to utilize different types of editorials.
Great. Last question from me. If there was one piece of editorial that everyone should see, I'm not asking you to pick favorites, but just if people don't have a lot of time, what is one that really sticks out to you?
I think the one that really, I feel like I'm really like cheerleader for EFA at the moment, but I think EFA's exhibition, Crafting by Nature, I think that was such a really great exhibition. Just the images used and just the detail, yeah, it was really great. So I definitely check out the exhibition by EFA.
I agree. It was the first exhibition created in this project, and it really set the bar.
It really did. It made our lives very difficult, yes. But it was very good.
So thank you, EFA, and sorry to the other partners. Thank you so much again, Laura.
Thank you.
This was lovely. I will give the floor to myself.
Okay. Shall I hang around, or shall I just...
maybe hang around a bit if there's any questions at the end for everyone. Great. Last but not least, a lot of work has been done in the Crafted project, and we also had to do a lot of work to make sure that all of this output wasn't just shared amongst the partners and we, you know, patted each other on the back, but we really wanted to share, disseminate all of the work that we did throughout these 2 years and after the end of these 2 years as well. So I'm going to talk a bit about building capacity, and capacity building is a fancy word for teaching other people what we have learned throughout the project and throughout our work. And the goal of this, as said, is to really valorize craft heritage and artisan heritage, not only within the project, but beyond the project as well. So we did a lot of work, as said. To us, it was also important to evaluate the quality and the output of that work, not only for ourselves, but also keeping in mind that other cultural heritage professionals, other cultural heritage institutions, researchers, educators might want to reuse our tools, our data, our editorial for their own. So things not only had to work and be of a high quality, but they had to be easy to understand, easy to implement, easy to use for people that weren't part of this project in the end. One of the big focus points there were our enrichments. So this really is a very innovative part of the project where not only content was ingested, but a whole pipeline was put in between the Cultural Heritage Institution and aggregator and Europeana to make sure that the objects that appeared on Europeana were of a high quality and used terms and vocabularies that weren't present or weren't found in the object when they were in the Cultural Heritage Institution. So there were two main tools used for this enrichment and validation of those enrichments. Those were SAGE and Crowd Heritage. I think there's going to be more talk about enrichments later, so I won't go too in depth about them. But to me, what was really important here was that other cultural heritage institutions could use and reuse these tools after the end of the project. So the technical partners very graciously created very comprehensive and extensive documentation, guides, and tutorials for these two tools to make sure that if someone needs this kind of tool suite, these kind of features in future, they could use SAGE and Crowd Heritage on their own with the project already being over and us not necessarily being there to, hold their hand and help them along. So there are wiki-style documentation pages both for SAGE and Crowd Heritage. There's tutorial videos for SAGE. There's guidelines for people that are using SAGE as an annotator, and this really guides you through the whole process of understanding what SAGE and Crowd Heritage is to actually enriching your own content with new terms and vocabularies. The end result within the project, and hopefully for anyone using these tools in the end, is a beautiful object on Europeana that also has very rich metadata. So what is highlighted here are some terms like tapestry, and a few others I can't read, and tapestry weaving, for instance. This term wasn't present in the object when it was in the Cultural Heritage Institution, but it was enriched throughout Crafted and now is a part of our Europeana metadata. And if you click on these terms, they also show up in our Europeana entity collection. So you could then see that other tapestry weaving objects are littered throughout this collection, which to me is the real value of this. This really allows users to go on their own journey throughout collections that are transnational, transversal, multilingual, and sit in different institutions throughout Europe, but can be seen next to each other in this digital space. So great, lovely work, pat ourselves on the back. We want to make sure that other cultural heritage professionals know what we're doing. So throughout these 2 years, more than 25 events were attended by one or more crafted partners, where we presented our work, did workshops. These were very, very kind of different kinds of events. We had small workshops with researcher or educators. There were big conferences where we presented. There were events like our own internal Europeana conference or Europeana Tech. All of these events, we try to spread the word of our, I was going to say our Lord and Savior, of our project Crafted to other cultural heritage professionals in Europe. So we did that both physically. Part of Crafted was kind of on the brink between COVID still making our lives a bit hard in lockdown and such. So we had a lot of online events, but we were very lucky to also be able to present some on-site events. I'm going to play this video because I think it's just a minute long. It was already highlighted in Laura's presentation, but it shows our participation in the Leiden Shorts Festival.
Tactile memory, the revival of analog filmmaking.
Let's work with analog filmmaking. And we were curious to explore why that was. So we're very much involved in lots of research projects. So at the moment,
This event is also, of course, the sound event of the new European Bauhaus Festival.
one take, a single take, was something that was really close to the live performing.
Easier for me to shoot in analog than what sorts of parts of the process would you want to keep and pass on?
So we were very lucky to be able to engage with that many different kinds of people from different walks of life and different parts of the cultural heritage sphere, I'd say. No, let's not watch that again. Great. In the end, we reached more than 2,500 cultural heritage professionals from all over Europe in 6 different countries, speaking different languages, coming from different backgrounds. So I think this is a really great achievement that we could say kudos to all of the partners who contributed to this. So here are a few more tidbits of events that we were at, videos that we filmed, editorial that was created, cultural heritage institutions that we attended. So we didn't sit still for the past 2 years is what I was trying to say. The goal of all of this capacity building is, as said, to make others understand and apply that value of the craft heritage sector in their own digital cultural heritage sphere, to use the same methods that we had in the Crafted project of collecting content, editorial, and engaging with the craft sector in their own work. We also, of course, want to make sure that we support other projects. The example of the Archipelago project in Greece, where we're now going to create some editorial or publish some editorial for, is a really nice example for that. And making sure that others can use Sage and crowd heritage to understand enrichment and validation and also apply that in their own work. One of the ways in which we really wanted to bring our enrichment tools to other professionals was by conducting hands-on workshops where we instructed other people, gave them tutorials, and really led them by the hand to work on some campaigns, either in crowd heritage or in Sage, so that not only a few campaigns were conducted and we had some nice enrichments for the project, but also that other cultural heritage professionals could understand these tools and apply them in their own work. And I think one of those workshops will happen later today, so you'll be able to taste that as well. Last but not least, we also reached out specifically to educators, and this is something I think we're really proud of and was finalized just in the past few days. We just published an education manual, which has 6 different resources that educators and teachers can use to do some of the work that we already did in the project and engage students and other educators with craft content and artisan heritage. So this goes from how to create a gallery, which might be really basic, but it really gives you through the process of how you create an account, how you engage students with searching on Europeana, finding interesting craft content, and then creating their own interesting digital gallery, and maybe even presenting that gallery for the class, to more involved resources like working with the Crowd Heritage platform, hosting an edit-a-thon, or even writing an exhibition. So this is free to download and to reuse on our Making Culture page. So that's europeana.eu/making-culture. That was my presentation. Thank you very much. I think we have a few minutes left if there are any questions. I won't ask questions to myself because that's weird. Are there questions online?
We have only one question about the access of this education manual online. And if you can give me the link, so I will post it in the chat.
Yep, it's europeana.eu/making-culture, but I will send you the link. Parfait. Thank you so much. So that's where you not only can find the education manual, which is now at the top of that page, but also all of the other editorial and work that was done through Europeana is all collected on that page in one easy portal for you to access. And I'm really happy that we could highlight that at the end of this workshop, unless there are any other questions. Great, that means everything was clear. I'd like to one last time thank, yep, go ahead, yes.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Aline Dennis. I work for the French Ministry of Culture, and thank you very much for these very interesting presentations. I wanted to know how, if other partners around that are not part of the project, but wanted to contribute to this and to keep up this editorial work, how can they join or how can they participate? And maybe I was thinking about some higher education and art students maybe would be interested as well to contribute. How can they participate?
Great question. Thank you so much. How other partners and cultural heritage institutions can participate is quite simple. Specifically when it comes to editorial, we have an audience engagement team in Europeana that takes on all of the kind of requests for editorial from other partners and takes them by the hand to lead them through the creation of editorial process. There are some ways that it's really easy to create editorial in, like a gallery is as simple as creating an account and you're set. You can create your own gallery online without the help or the influence of people at Europeana themselves. That also makes it a really great exercise to do with students, with higher education students. It allows them to develop digital literacy skills and media literacy skills by going through the Europeana collection, finding interesting items and collating them in their own gallery, which really allows them to kind of curate their own experience and have their own nice digital gallery. So if you are doing this with a group of people, I would say go to Europeana.eu and make an account and start creating a gallery. That is the easiest way. If you want to more spread or disseminate the work that has been done in your own institution, a blog or an exhibition might be more fitting for that. So for that, I would say either contact me or someone else from the audience engagement team, and we can help you in that work. I hope that answers your question. Great, thank you so much.
Which is, did you work with children in the workshops?
Yes, we did. I don't know exactly what the definition of a child is, but we used secondary education students in Poland, more than 100 of them, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, more than 100 higher or secondary education students contributed to the Crowd Heritage platform by enriching content there, where they, I think, participated in a campaign to validate colors that were automatically recognized in some objects, which was a great way to engage these students with an enrichment platform and a validation platform, and also teach them about basically how digital cultural heritage is curated and made. Thank you. I will first ask Maria to add something, because you did the actual campaign, right?
Such a long. Maybe, okay. So I can add only short information that on Tuesday, our students from Poland, about 30 of them, had a chance to evaluate, to tag 2 craft galleries, one devoted to Ukrainian towels and another collected for them folk costumes, about 400 folk costumes from Europeana. It's also a craft. And they enjoy.
Perfect. So not only did we work with high school students, we're still working with them today. There was one more question.
Yes.
Let's
work. Okay. If I have students, because probably I will have students from a university or something like that, and I wanted to make them do their own galleries within Europeana. Should they have a login, one each, or should I have one login for all of them?
I think it's easiest if everyone has their own login. It's really easy to create your own account, and we don't store any user data specifically, so we're GDPR compliant there. And it also allows students to, if they're interested in the work after school, to curate their own galleries, work on it themselves. They can share galleries with each other publicly. So once you've published a gallery, you can send the link to anyone and they can see it. So having everyone have their own account, I think, gives them the ownership over their own gallery, which I think is best.
Okay. Is there any kind of review or approval of the galleries, or they just go online and that's it?
So we have 3 different levels of publication of galleries. You can choose your gallery to be private so that only you can see it and no one else can see it. There is public, meaning that if you send the link to someone, that person can see it, but it's not visible on the Europeana website. So it's not on the homepage. If a student has created a random gallery of 3 items that aren't really related, they won't be visible on the Europeana website. but then there's also a button that says submit for publication, and that will make your gallery published if it is accepted by the audience engagement team. So we will go through a review, see if it has a high quality, and if so, we will show it on Europeana.eu for everyone to enjoy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, maybe you can give the mic to Hélène.
Hello, I'm Marie-Véronique Leroy from the French Ministry of Culture. I have an interested question as a national aggregator. As the project is ending, if we aggregate some new content related to craft, how can we manage to get it still kind of integrated in all the material that you produced? And how can we benefit from all the work that you have been doing on the terminology part?
Thank you, Marie-Véronique. That's a good question for sure. So whenever you send content to Europeana after the end of the project, of course, we can aggregate it as normal. I think your question was more about, can we still put it through this enrichment pipeline that has been set up through Crafted? I am kind of trying to look at Eirini, but I think that it would be possible to use either the Sage or Crowd Heritage platforms by your own. So setting this up in your own institution, putting your content through that pipeline, and then after that, sending that to Europeana. So this allows you to still benefit from the enrichment process that we set up even after the end of the project. So yeah, did that answer the question? Merci beaucoup. C'est tout. I'd like to thank one last time Laura and Maria Teresa for your time, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Merci, Jolan, and everybody. So now we will have a coffee break here, and then we will be back at 11:30. For the online participants, you can enjoy the videos, the galleries, exhibitions. The link is on the chat. And stay connected, please. And then see you, let's say,